Hi, Olivia from Ollie here to help you ease into all things back to school. Homework, meal prep, and pickup duty piling up? Goodbye Stress Gummies help you keep your cool. Start the day with Kids Multi and Probiotic for digestive and immune system health. They'll love to take them, and that makes mornings easier. When back to school gets real, Ollie helps you deal. Find these and more at ollie.com or retailers nationwide. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Mom, Dad, you should shop Amazon for back to school and save some money. See, I'm currently obsessed with superheroes and need all the superhero stuff. Superhero lunchbox, superhero backpack. But next year, it'll be something else. Maybe dinosaurs? I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller. But I can tell you not to spend a fortune and shop low prices for school on Amazon. Okay, good chat. Amazon. Spend less, smile more.
Unfiltered discussions. Unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome, and boy did it rain today. Not that that's important to you, because you probably don't live where I live. But hey, spitting out the facts. Here's what you're going to learn on this Thursday night's program. What happens when parents get too involved in their kids' dating and love lives? I'm looking directly at you, Mom. Well, new research shows that even well-intentioned support or subtle meddling from parents can cause emotional turbulence between parent and child. In about 10 minutes' time, we'll look at how getting involved with your kids' love lives can quietly tear your relationship with them apart. I mean, maybe it's not that dramatic, but you'll definitely want to stick around for that. Afterwards, we'll look at the technology stories of the day, including drones being used as first responders to 911 police calls. Imagine you've got an emergency, and before a firefighter, a cop, or an ambulance gets there, bzzz, a drone. Is this a good thing? Could this possibly be helpful? And where and in what cities is this happening? We'll tell you all about it halfway through the hour. That is just some of tonight's program. We've got lots more informative and at times ridiculous stuff. We'll tell you about that as the night progresses. But for now, let's jump in.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
And in the ongoing manhunt for someone naked dog walking, traumatizing the English countryside news, we are joined by foreign correspondent in London, England, Tony Five, who reports live from the scene in his apartment. Tony has a Groupon credential, and he is an expert in analyzing naked dog walkers, among the world's best. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hello, David Cooper. How are we? I think the main story is that you thought Scotland was below me in London and Stonehenge was somewhere else on a different aisle.
That is part of the story. At the commercial break, I said, where is Stonehenge? In Scotland? And for whatever reason, Tony lost his mind when I said that.
It's unbelievable. It's like saying San Francisco's in Honolulu. But it's just ridiculous.
Why would I know where Stonehenge is? I'm not British.
Well, why would I know what the capital of the US is? C or U? I don't know what else it is.
Yeah, but if you said, oh, what's the capital of the United States? New York, I wouldn't start laughing. I would just say, oh, you're wrong.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought it was really funny. But let's get back on topic, my friend. And by topic, I mean...
I know. Yeah, we're really burying the lead here. Naked dog walkers traumatizing England.
Mate, we're talking about a place in Wiltshire, Salisbury, which is where Stonehenge is, for those who...
in Scotland.
Yeah, Scotland, as he said. And it's strange because there has been a naked man terrorising the poor folk of the gentle English countryside, my friend. And Salisbury police actually posted a post on Facebook saying, we're looking for this naked man with his dog, but we're not looking for the dog. So they were very specific about the dog not being part of the manhunt.
The dog has committed no crime. I think the defense to accessory to nakedness in a public space is, oh, by the way, I'm a dog. I think that's a proper defense. Otherwise, you would be facilitating the crime.
I guess so, but this is not the first time this has happened. So further up north in Nottingham, there was a man who was kind of, and again, another new dog walker, but weirdly, he garnered fame and became a tourist attraction. I'm guessing on TripAdvisor.
Well, I think it really just depends on where you are. Like, for example, if you showed up at a nude beach in the coast of France with a dog, nobody would bat an eyelash. But if you're in the English countryside in I guess Salisbury Village, the villagers lose their mind and police get involved. So I guess it just depends on context, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, and like I think in the countryside, there's a kind of like, okay, that's kind of fair enough. But last month, in a major town centre, Newcastle, a guy just was walking around butt naked.
Butt naked. Isn't it buck naked, not butt naked?
No, aren't bucks clothed? They're like deer, aren't they?
I think it's butt. What is it? Butt or buck?
It's butt naked.
No,
Why do you think it's buck naked? Why would he be buck naked? Why on earth would somebody be butt naked? They're butt naked because you can see their butt. What has this show become?
No. I'm looking this up. Apparently, butt naked is just mishearing buck naked, and it's become so common, it's a new form of saying naked. But the original one is buck, and I don't know why.
That's amazing. See, David, this show is not only ridiculous, but it's educational, right?
It has to do with buckskin, as in the skin of a deer. Like, hey, a deer is naked, so you must be naked like a naked deer. That is where it comes from. The original saying is buck, B-U-C-K, naked.
Naked. But it could be like squirrel naked, because most animals are naked, right? There's not many that have clothes on.
Yeah, I would say most animals don't wear clothes. Although there have been orcas spotted off the Atlantic coast wearing dead salmon hats. Have you heard about this?
David, you're blowing my mind today. You blew my mind with the fact earlier that in San Francisco, you can actually walk around naked legally. So it is absolutely illegal in this country. It's under the Public Indecency Act to walk around naked. But you told me it's not in certain states.
Not completely true anymore. To the orcas, it was just a bunch of orcas that decided a fashion trend would be wearing dead fish on their head. That's everything there. But back to San Francisco, I think now, as of maybe the last 5, 6, 7 years ago, it is illegal. But when I first moved to San Francisco, yes, it's like a crime in a federal sense, but the local city authorities, the San Francisco Police Department, they ignored it. They didn't enforce it, whatever. So when I first moved there, about 3 months in, I was just walking on the sidewalk with a friend, and there was some young dude, maybe 25 years old, flipping, flopping, completely naked. All he was wearing was shoes, roaming the streets. And I'm like, what is happening right now? The first time you see it, you're like, it's like you're on a different planet.
Like, are other people looking, pointing, staring, touching, or is it just like so normal it's weird?
Well, not touching, but yes, at that time it was so normal it was weird. The guy walked by a park and no one in the park, families cared. It was so weird. People just tolerated it and didn't notice it. And it was just one of those strange things. Every few weeks you'd see a naked person on the street, and then they outlawed it, so I don't think it's allowed anymore.
I mean, what's your take on it? Do you think that children should be protected from that thing, like indecency? Or do you just think, well, that's just the way God, intended us to be?
As long as it's not like a sexy thing, it's just a naked body, no kind of like adult acts depicted. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. It's just nudity. Who cares?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And maybe it's kind of a good thing because it kind of like normalizes the body and it's kind of body positivity. And kids from a young age can just get used to bodies of different shapes and sizes and looks and maybe don't be as judgy when they get older. So I can kind of see the positivity in it,
Well, what negativity does the naked body in and of itself? Obviously, there's activities that are for adults only. And yes, we keep that away from children. Definitely always, no exceptions. But what is just the naked body in and of itself? What harm could that possibly cause to anybody?
I don't know. It's funny how that's become offensive, right? You don't see like a naked elephant look at another naked elephant and go, oh, look at you. Like animals don't do that. So why do we? When did I guess that's what happened in the Garden of Eden, right?
Well, yes, but I'm not sure. Not everyone believes in that story, Tony.
With the snake? Isn't that factual? I saw a documentary on it. Did that not actually happen?
Not everyone believes that happened, Tony.
Oh, right. I saw a documentary about a snake and like these two people in a tree. Okay, I really must delete that off my TiVo.
Have you never seen someone naked in public? I mean, how did you react to it?
I've never seen someone naked in public, no, but I would...
You've never been to a nude beach?
No, never. We don't have them in the UK. Again, it's outlawed, dude. You can go to nudist camps, but they're completely enclosed and you have to have a membership card. Yeah. Again, I don't know where you'd keep that membership card if you're walking about, but yeah.
I've been to street festivals in San Francisco where everyone's naked. I go to Burning Man every year in the desert. It's an art festival. People are naked there. I guess maybe in my life, I've just been to a lot of places where people are naked, so it doesn't really faze me. Would it faze you if you were just minding your own business on the street and then someone walked by you naked?
Absolutely. I mean, you like walking around naked, don't you? You're quite open about stuff like that. You have been naked around public, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. And the manhunt continues for the naked dog walker. Tony, if they find this guy, what do you think they're going to do to him?
I have no idea, but whoever tackles him, good luck to them.
They deserve a raise. Tony Five, foreign correspondent from London, England. Tony will rejoin the program later in the night for a surprise. Tony, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, my friend. See you soon.
Coming up after the break, your mom loves your new romantic partner, or she hates them. Mom expressing a positive or negative opinion stirs up more drama than you'd think. And that includes just expressing approval. Up next, we'll look at research that says your parents, Mom, I'm looking at you, meddling in your love life can cause all kinds of problems, whether they like the person you're dating or not.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
United Healthcare nurse Crystal checked in on a patient.
We do a routine call after surgery, and I could tell in her voice that she was struggling.
Crystal knew she needed help.
And I knew that this is very serious. This is like septic. This is life-threatening.
And she knew just what to do.
And I called the hospital and said, she's coming in. Here are her labs.
And got her the help she needed.
I see my role at United Healthcare as a life-saving role.
Hear more stories like Crystal's at uhc.com. Benefits, features, and/or devices vary by plan area. Limitation and exclusions apply.
The only talk show with an introduction that mentions its own introduction. And that's happening right now in this introduction. The last show with David Cooper.
Begging for a mention. Yeah, you just want attention.
What happens when parents get involved in their kids' dating lives? Mom, I'm looking at you. A new study shows that meddling in your kids' love lives, even with good intentions, can stir up tension. But it all depends on how your family communicates and how much influence parents have on their kids. I'm here with someone who's done research in this area. His name is Dr. Paul Schrodt. He is a communication study professor at Texas Christian University. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. I'm glad to be here.
I love that you elected to research this area. I'm glad there's some real data that maybe proves things that we all know. But I got to ask this question to start. What possessed you to look into parents meddling in kids' dating lives?
Sure. So I had a student here at TCU. Her name is Emily Steger, and she had expressed some frustrations with some of her own parents' involvement in some of her dating relationships. And I was familiar with the theory that we used for this particular research, and I knew that the theory had mostly been applied to romantic relationships. But I got to thinking, the theory talks about how interference and facilitation from a partner can affect a romantic partnership in terms of feelings of instability and chaos in the relationship. And it got me to thinking, I wonder if parent interference and facilitation of their child's romantic relationship has similar effects for their relationship. And at the same time, I'm a father of two sons who are both in college right now.
Oh boy.
And I myself had experienced some conversations with both of my sons where they might perceive that I was interfering at times. And once we had that conversation together, we decided to do a study to explore these relationships.
What are some of the ways in which parents interfere, some positive, some negative in their dating? We could talk about your one student if she'd be comfortable with you sharing, but if not, just generally. What are some of the ways that you see in your research that parents do hinder or help in their kids' love lives?
Great question. In terms of interfering, oftentimes that involves, using guilt, or perhaps engaging in conversations with the child where you begin to express concerns about who they're dating.
Are you talking about my mother on purpose, or this is just, I'm just thinking this is about me when it's not?
Exactly. Some of the other ways that they can interfere is, basically arranging family activities in ways that prevent the child from being able to spend the kind of time with their partner that they might want to spend the time with. In terms of support, most of the research indicates it involves maybe giving advice on how to have a healthy relationship, maybe helping your child navigate their first big argument that they have with their romantic partner, inviting them to family gatherings and get-togethers, essentially trying to communicate that they're included in the family, in the group. And so depending on whether it's, interfering or supporting the relationship, it can have effects on the quality of the relationship between the child and the parent.
You'd think that hindering or interfering behaviors would have a negative outcome. You'd think that more helpful or supportive behaviors around your kids' dating would have a positive outcome. Is that what you observed?
In general, yes, although the effect of the supportive behaviors does depend on the kind of family communication environment that the parents have created over time. And one of the things that we found is that when families already have a high conversation orientation to the family, meaning they basically are open and free to talk about a wide variety of topics, supporting the child's romantic relationship and continuing to show a vested interest in that partnership, especially for emerging adult children who are kind of in this weird transition period where they're trying to gain more and more autonomy from the family, that continued facilitation can actually have a bit of a boomerang effect and create a degree of instability and chaos in the parent-child relationship.
Interesting. Can you say more about that or give me an example of how that might play out?
Yes. So one of the things that we found was when the child values the parent's opinion about the relationship, but at the same time, they're striving to gain more and more freedom and independence from the family, having a mother or a father continue to insert themselves into the romantic relationship is actually undesirable. It actually might create a situation where the child begins to feel that the parent is being controlling or overly intrusive.
Again, Mom. Sorry, I got distracted. Were you surprised by this? You'd think that supportive parents would just generally have a good outcome in a relationship. This seems like, it's kind of a corner case. You have to have a lot of circumstances play out. But were you surprised that under some circumstances, being overly supportive or quote unquote helpful actually had a negative outcome?
Absolutely. In fact, for us, that was one of the most surprising and noteworthy findings to come from the study. It seems counterintuitive. And we found that if you set aside the communication environment of the family and you set aside whether or not the child values the parent's opinion about the romantic relationship, well, then by itself, parent facilitation does usually produce a positive outcome. And, that support usually is welcomed in the relationship. But under that other circumstance, it can actually have the opposite effect.
Is there something a well-meaning parent can say or do that they think is supportive, but actually causes more harm than good?
Yeah, that's a good question because we didn't look at specific types of messages or specific types of statements. I do think it is more of an indicator of the overall level of involvement that the parent is continuing to try to have in their emerging adult child's romantic relationship.
Did anything in your research change how you might personally talk to your own kids who are about that age you're speaking about, or advice to parents for how they might talk to their own kids about dating?
Yeah, I actually, after we came out with the study, I actually sent it to my oldest son, who just recently went through a breakup this past February. And of course, he got a kick out of it because he and I had a few conversations about it. And I think that the takeaway that I took from it was that I really need to let him kind of figure his romantic relationship out for himself and, be here as a quiet source of support. And if he would like my thoughts or my advice, wait to be asked instead of continuing to pry and ask questions.
I mean, I think that's just generally great parenting advice. It's just funny that you came to it from a very academic lens. But
Sure.
in general, I would say that's just good parenting advice, no?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You focused on the child's perspective here. If you ran the same study from a parent's point of view, what do you think we might find?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because what previous research indicates is that parents have a vested interest in their child's well-being overall. And as we all know, a healthy romantic relationship or an unhealthy relationship can be a tremendous source of life-giving energy or stress and hurt. And I think a lot of parents have a vested interest as well, because this could be a future member of the family. As we all know, those of us who choose to marry, you're not just marrying your partner, you're marrying into the family. And so I think for a lot of parents, the question of who their child is pursuing a relationship with and might be getting involved with in a more serious manner has a lot of relevance for their own general stress level, health, and well-being.
Well, Dr. Paul Schrodt is a communication study professor at Texas Christian University. Paul, this has been a great chat. Thanks for sharing your research with me and some of these personal anecdotes.
Thank you, David, for having me on the show.
After the break, we'll look at various stories from the technology sector of the day, including drones being deployed every time you dial 911. They could arrive there before first responders like cops, ambulances, firefighters. Is this a good thing, a violation of privacy, or even helpful at all? We'll tell you all about it and where you might find these drones. Spoiler, it might be in a city near you. Coming up in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Membership means more with American Express Business Gold. Earn 4 times membership rewards points in your top 2 eligible spending categories every month, including eligible U.S. advertising purchases and select media, and U.S. purchases at restaurants, including takeout and delivery. What are you waiting for? Get the card that flexes with your spending every month. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The last show with David Cooper.
It is time for Technology Time. We are joined by expert of technology, probably Carmi Levy, to discuss what happens when you call 911 in Mississauga and Brampton. First responders, not cops, but drones. Terrifying.
No, not terrifying at all. I think that's kind of cool. I like the notion of drones getting to the scene of a crime before a cop can. This comes to us from Peel Regional Police. They're going to be the first police force in Canada to use this technology in this way. Cops already use drones across the US and Canada in all sorts of ways. They usually have them in the back of their existing police units. And so they'll do They'll do a traffic investigation. They'll look for suspects, surveillance, things like that. But it's part of the units that are already out there. They're not really integrated into the 911 dispatch system. This is different. This is when you call 911, the dispatcher will then have the option of sending a drone out first. So before a unit can actually get to the site of an emergency, the drone will get there. It'll start recording. It'll use all of its sensors to better understand what's going on, so that by the time the police cars do actually pull up, they'll have full situational awareness, all the information they need to get out of their vehicles and hit the ground running. And so this doesn't replace human cops. It complements them. It kind of gives them superpowers. It accelerates the delivery of an emergency response at a time when this particular police force, and I know a number of others also admit, they don't have enough bodies. They're hiring more to close that gap, to reduce the delays that are inherent in 911 dispatch. But until that happens, drones can really fill that gap and really help ensure that you got the right eyes on scene sooner than would otherwise be the case.
It just feels kind of dystopian to me. I don't know.
It totally is. It completely is.
It feels kind of like The Fifth Element, like all those cars flying around and traffic jam and Bruce Willis. It's creepy, you know?
I'm not going to disagree with you. And the potential for that creepiness, the potential for that dystopian future is certainly there. And so the last thing we want is for a police force to deploy the technology, just, flip it on and see what happens. I mean, there have to be very clear rules, documented rules, protocols in place that are communicated to everybody, including citizens who just might happen to be on the street when these things whiz over their heads, so that everyone is on the same page. What are these things recording? Using what sensors? Where does all that data go? Who has access to it? Where do we establish these boundaries for privacy and individual security in a public space? I think as long as those rules are laid out and everyone understands them, I think it's reasonable to proceed with a pilot and ask ourselves, how can this technology make public places safer? How do they help citizens feel safer and allow the huge amounts of money that we're devoting to police services to go further, right? It's a force multiplier, and technologies like this can allow the same number of police officers to cover a lot more ground and do it a lot better.
Having said all that, there are jurisdictions, and let's hope that you out there, listener, don't live in one of them, where 911 calls can take forever. Maybe it's a rural area. Maybe it's an area where a city's jammed one day with, I don't know, protests or who knows what. For the drone to get on scene, maybe help the 911 operator assess the situation, and then really get you a cop if you need one, or get you a firefighter or a ambulance if you need one, based on a video assessment, based on a drone assessment. That might be a good thing, especially if a department is resource constrained. They get 1,000 calls, they only have 100 officers, whatever. Maybe, if a cat's stuck in a tree, that can wait. Maybe if someone has a heart attack or is being held at gunpoint or something awful like that, that can't wait. I'm not saying this technology right now is being used for that, but that could be a potential good use for it.
Oh yeah, and the Peel Regional Police didn't share a lot of details on what those use cases would be, but that is one of them that I imagine would be top of the list. That if you're in the 911 call center and you've got all these options at your disposal, that you would use a drone to get eyes on site really quickly, because there just aren't enough police units to go around, and so this doesn't replace humans. It just allows them to be in more places at once. And I think what it does is it accelerates the delivery of something, so that you're not sitting there waiting for minutes or hours while an emergency plays out. At the very least, they can get some eyes on scene, and which could perhaps also help that once they catch the people who have done the crime, for example, that evidence can then ensure that whatever charges are laid ultimately stick. It allows them to collect a lot more evidence around individual cases, do it a lot sooner, and not be subject to the fact that there are only so many bodies in vehicles on the street at any given time. You can buy as many drones as you want. These things really do have kind of a force multiplier impact on police service delivery.
Having said that, the idea of authorities zipping a drone to my house when I'm in crisis to observe me, it does give me the creeps. It gives me the willies.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's why we need the rules, right? That's why, understand when it will be used, when it will not be used, what those privacy lines are, and how will we know when we have crossed them. We're learning as we're going along, and this is just a pilot program. So, those questions are going to be asked here, and they're going to have to be answered before these things start to fly. And then we're going to have to adapt those answers as we learn from the real world experiences.
And can these be abused? That's a whole conversation for another time. Speaking of abuse, a couple weeks ago, we maybe excitedly, because it was antagonizing the worst possible people, talked about this app called T. It's an app to gossip about bad behaving men on the dating scene. I myself kind of liked the idea, like a little bit of accountability for cheaters or abusers or people who just acted like total you-know-what heads. Mm-hmm. We kind of thought it was fun. It was antagonizing the worst possible people, like aggressive men influencers who have bad views. It's not all good. It's not all bad. It was what it was. But hackers seem to have taken a view of this app, T, not so positively. They have stolen the images, driver's licenses, data of women who are on that platform, and a safety platform for women, ostensibly, and posted them publicly on the internet, which is all shades of ugly to me.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, women who are using this service ostensibly as a way of staying safe when they're out in the dating world have now had that anonymity pierced, all because the data is now out there. And they are being targeted by malevolent actors, threat actors, largely, I think we can safely assume, men who aren't too happy that women have been using this platform to swap stories and details about some of the more egregious dates they've been on. And so this is one of those cases where we think we have anonymity online, and so we behave in under the assumption that it's never going to see the light of day, and then it sees the light of day. So it's frightening, and quite frankly, I think a lot of the accountability rests with the T app developers themselves. All of this started with an open data set left on an online repository, unprotected, no usernames or passwords, not encrypted, and it was discovered by threat actors. And of course, that started the first wave. And then there was a second breach that involved messages that were being sent back and forth, which of course included identifying information of the women who were sharing those messages. And of course, that in the hands of malevolent actors is also now being used to dox and target these women. So I think the intent of the app was make dating safer for women, and I think that's admirable. But of course, the data that resulted from this process was of, and it clearly is, of high value to those who would do them harm. And we are seeing the, frankly, disturbing results of that now that data is out in the open.
People are plotting maps of where these women are. It's really ugly. And the reason for it, just like lack of security by the T developers, just simple, basic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it was such a simple oversight that it was just left there, I think should be a lesson to all software developers. And, certainly you being one, you appreciate that more than most, this is just the kind of thing that it should never be done in the development community, and that there should be a bigger outcry than there is.
And it's just so sad that they used like government issued ID to verify that their users were real and women. And then that verification data is what leaked. It's so ugly, so awful. I think when companies use things like government IDs to verify people, they should use secure third parties, or they should do the verification and then delete the data. Like, what do you need to save that for?
You don't. And the fact is every developer works out their own rules. And in this case, I think they crossed the line.
When we come back on It's Time for Technology Time, we'll have a special surprise guest, and we will discuss why you should not be using generative AI, ChatGPT, as a therapist. There is no patient-doctor confidentiality. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show. We'll be back with Carmi Levy in a minute.
Hi, welcome to IKEA.
This is my college campus.
Correct, but I see you're on IKEA.com ordering some college items.
My daughter's room is pretty bare. We need a lamp, some comfy pillows, her favorite stuffy.
Dad!
With pickup options, we've got what you need to conveniently order IKEA. Literally anywhere.
Sweet. More time for gaming.
And studying. Wait, where are you going now?
Got to show the ultimate Frisbee team how easy it is to order from IKEA. Get IKEA whenever, wherever, however you want. Choose from thousands of pickup locations, affordable delivery options, and more.
Broadcasting intimate details and useless information from an undisclosed location in New York City. The Last Show with David Cooper.
It is time for Technology Time. We are joined by expert Carmi Levy. Carmi, welcome to the show. I've got a surprise for you.
Oh, I love a good surprise. What is it?
Well, first, let me go over this story. Sam Altman. Who is this Sam Altman character? Why should we be worried about him?
Well, he's the guy who brought us ChatGPT. He's the co-founder and CEO of OpenAI. And so he...
Nerd!
Yeah, so he's a nerd. I'm a nerd. We love nerds.
Nerds aside. He warns the public there is no legal confidentiality when using ChatGPT.
Yeah, duh. Yeah.
If you're asking it for cooking recipes, fine. But if you're asking it for like therapy advice, treating it like a psychiatrist, treating it like a sexy girlfriend, what's stopping ChatGPT from selling your information to advertisers? For example, we are here with foreign correspondent Tony 5. That's the surprise, by the way.
Yay!
ChatGPT. Tony here. How are we, dear people? Now, I'm very worried, David. I have spoken to ChatGPT many a late night, lonely night when wearing just underwear. What's going on? Tell me everything, Mr. Levy.
And now Tony is getting these targeted advertisements for male enhancement products based on things that he's told ChatGPT. He keeps getting these pill advertisements. They're even arriving at his house with his own credit card number on the purchase slip.
It's really strange.
Ooh, he must have quite the history in his chat logs there. Very impressive.
Really dangerous, because my Amazon man actually knows what's coming now, and he's just saying Tony. It's like that thing, you know, Norm from Cheers. He just says Tony, and he's like throwing sort of sexual aid at me. Not good, David. We must stop this. This is technology gone mad. Carmi, help me.
Well, first of all, if there's signs that he's opening the tape on your packages and putting his own stuff in there, you've got a problem. But aside from that, no. It was like this in the age of Google, right? You searched for stuff on Google, and Google knew a lot about you, and it customized the results back to you. So ChatGPT is doing the same thing. And now Sam Altman is saying, hey, you know, if you're using it for recipes, that's one thing. But if you think that it's a therapist and you're telling it your deepest, darkest secrets, well, guess what? There is no doctor-patient confidentiality with a chatbot. And if you think that you're protected, or if you think that we're, as a company, OpenAI, aren't going to hand things over to law enforcement or to lawyers in case there's a lawsuit, you got another thing coming. The rules, the laws simply don't apply here. And that's kind of a problem for people who think they're protected. You're not protected at all. Your stuff is out there.
It certainly is. Like, I mean, imagine you're confiding in ChatGPT about your depression associated with seasonal affective disorder, and then the next day on Google, you get a search result for one of those lamps that people shine at their faces. I have one. They work. They're great. But also, like, your records could be subpoenaed in court. This has happened to Tony, probably.
And I am speaking to you from the penitentiary locally in London. The London penitentiary might be called. But what's worrying, what if you were to like make jokes in ChatGPT about, say, something, you know, something quite serious? You're going to do something to someone or a building or whatever. Can ChatGPT pick that out and maybe contact like the FBI or the CIA or the NBA or the WNBA? What happens?
The door to that happening is certainly open, and I wouldn't expect that ChatGPT would willingly pick off Tony Five's chat history and then share it with law enforcement. But if somebody gets sued, or if Tony gets arrested for whatever reason, that data set can be subpoenaed, and OpenAI, because there is no doctor-patient confidentiality here, would be compelled to hand it all over. And so that's the problem here. We're all increasingly rolling up our sleeves and playing with these AI tools and saying all sorts of crazy things, some of them funny, some of them not, some of them tragic and pathetic. And inevitably, that's a growing time bomb of data that's ready to go off if somehow it ends up in the hands of a legal team that maybe is working against you. That's really frightening. And I think it's something for all of us to think about. And I did a tour before this conversation. I did a tour through my chat history. I'm not using it as a therapist, but there are probably things in there I don't want the public or anyone else to see. So I went and I cleaned it up. And now I'm a little bit more careful about what I share there, because, yeah, it can definitely come back to bite you.
But how clean is clean? Like, I know you can clean your like internet history. I've been doing it for years. Thank you very much. But surely, like this ChatGPT people, they store it somewhere, right? They can still access it, because people say that anything that you put online is never really deleted. It's kind of somewhere. So is it really deleted, or could like the FBI or the CIA or the NBA or the WNBA, could they act on it and find it?
I think they absolutely could. And I think that's the risk that we run here, is just because we've pressed the delete button, you know, we've gone through our logs and we've cleaned them up as best we can, doesn't necessarily mean that a version of it doesn't exist on some backup somewhere. And certainly with the right kinds of surveillance and digital due diligence tools, someone, maybe the FBI, maybe the NSA, maybe the CIA, who knows, could dig really deep and learn our deepest, darkest secrets. And so, yeah, it's something to think about when you're asking a chatbot what you think is an innocuous question, but in the wrong hands. And it doesn't have to be about hiding a body or killing somebody. It could be just something that you think is innocuous, but someone else might not. And if they use that against you, you've got a problem. And it's trivially easy for anyone with the right skills and with the right motivation to get a hold of that information. We're leaving these kind of Hansel and Gretel like crumbs online for someone someday to find.
And yeah, Tony's been confiding in ChatGPT, and now he gets all these ED medications mailed to him. It's very strange. But look, it's just so brazen that the CEO is coming out and saying, hey, there's no legal confidentiality with the tools that I'm offering you. I don't know. It's like if he's warning you, you really do have to be worried. Don't tech CEOs, they don't say the quiet part out loud, I guess is...
Yeah, this is a rare instance where a tech CEO is actually brazenly honest and brutally honest about the damage that his tools can cause. And Sam Altman's, he's a bit of a maverick. He's a bit of a, he goes against the grain of the industry. So I kind of expect that from him. Says things that are designed to, maybe upset and surprise us. And so it's Sam Altman being Sam Altman. And I think this is one instance where we probably should listen to him. He's warning us. And it's only going to get worse as these tools get better at figuring out, what makes us tick, figuring out, how to tell us more of what we want to hear without going off the rails. The better they get, the more we're going to lean on them for things like this, the more we're going to share and the more data we're going to leave behind. We're at a scary time. And unfortunately, most of us are using these tools without considering those risks. And that at some point is going to get us into trouble.
Completely different subject, completely different topic. If you're asking ChatGPT about, say, honey, hamsters, midnight, questions just kind of about those things, it wouldn't appear on not my search history, but somebody else's search history, would it?
No, and it should only appear on yours, but that's enough, right? Because you're signed into ChatGPT when you're using it. That's your chat log, and when someone else is analyzing them, they can either use it to help you or to hinder you. As part of a broader data set, that is something that could maybe not necessarily be a good thing for you. And certainly, I don't want people seeing my Google search history. I don't want them seeing my ChatGPT history as well. But because if they do, I can guarantee you, it isn't going to be a good day for me.
And another quick question, completely unrelated to me. If I was to set my MacBook Air on fire and throw it on a motorway, would that stop anything to do with ChatGPT knowing what I've been looking at?
No, it wouldn't, because none of this information is stored. I mean, some of it obviously is stored to, in your browser, in your cache, on your hard drive, but you're dealing with a cloud-based service. And so this is sitting on their servers in their data centers. You can, toss your Mac over a bridge and it'll be destroyed, but your account and all the information in that account persists online, regardless of what device you're using to access it.
Again, David, nothing related to this, but I might have to go now.
Coming up after the break, we cover a London, England-based man who tossed his MacBook Air onto a motorway in an attempt to delete his AI search history because of its weird, perverted, awful contents. We'll cover that after the break, completely unrelated to foreign correspondent Tony Five being on the show. Tony, thanks for joining me and Carmi.
David, I'm not even here anymore. Bye.
Carmi, thanks for being on the show.
Great being with you. Thanks, David.
Cheers, Carmi.
Oh, this was delightful. Thanks, guys.
All right, moving on. Most people get their ADHD diagnosis early in life, but realizing you have it later in life can change everything, especially when folks thought you had your life together. After the break, we'll talk to someone who got diagnosed at age 32, and how she made sense of it all is unexpectedly relatable. That's coming up.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
The McDonald's Snack Wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch Snack Wrap. Spicy Snack Wrap. You broke the internet for a snack. Snack Wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
The show that asks the questions other shows are afraid to ask. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Realizing you have ADHD later in life can feel like someone finally handed you a missing piece of your own user manual. Our guest was 32 years old, and although highly productive and organized, the diagnosis came nonetheless. It surprised some people, but not her. I am joined by Tayla Blaire, a freelance writer and contributor at Business Insider, to talk about it. Tayla, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, David.
Let's start with this aha moment. What pushed you from suspicion into actually seeking an ADHD diagnosis?
So mostly it came about from spending an embarrassing amount of time on social media and seeing all these reels, TikToks, and so on with ADHD jokes and going like, oh, that's hilarious. Oh, yeah, that's me. I relate to this so hard. I'm going to send this to people around me. And then it was one of those things where I'm like, I don't actually think, and probably having studied psychology has something to do with this, you can just find something relatable and say, okay, well, this is now my diagnosis.
Sure.
And it was one of those things where I was coming across quite a few reels about like difficulties. If you have ADHD, you're going to struggle with this or that. And it was one of those things where I was resonating with those too. And it occurred to me that maybe getting a formal diagnosis could be helpful. And as somebody who encourages other people to seek out experts and get formal diagnoses to help them function, like when it's friends and that kind of thing, if someone suspects depression, I'm the first person to tell them to go see a psychologist, see a psychiatrist, etc. And then I was like, oh, well, you are a hypocrite. And you should probably go and find out if this applies to you or if you're just, finding a bunch of memes relatable online.
Let's talk about that process of finding out. How does one even get evaluated for ADHD? I'm kind of curious about this. You just go to a psychiatrist, take a few tests, talk to them, boom, you got your diagnosis?
Pretty much, yeah. So it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I think I hyped it up in my head that it was going to be this obstacle course. But I mean, look, your listeners, I'm not sure how complex it is for them to go and seek out a specialist in South Africa. It's incredibly easy where I'm based. I made an appointment with a psychiatrist. I had an appointment within a couple of weeks. I went off, sat with her for 2 hours. I said, I think ADHD is something that I resonate with, and she asked me a bunch of questions. One of them was like, well, how did the suspicion come to pass? And we got chatting about it. And then she had an assessment that we went through line by line. She handed it over to me. I filled it in. She double checked a few things that she wasn't sure why I'd indicated, X or Y. And then she literally, I think it was like 30 seconds, scanned over it and then went, yeah, you have ADHD. Congrats on the self-diagnosis. Consider this your formal diagnosis. Right, let's talk about medication. And we moved on.
The stereotype, and I'm sure this is wrong, is that folks with ADHD are not productive, not organized, let the procrastination impulse win. That is not you, is it?
So yes and no. So it's probably the reason I didn't associate with the label for so long, because it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, the ADHD person is number one. I had stereotypes about like hyperactivity, right? They can't sit down. They're always the ones who were like spinning and falling out of their chair in class. They were the ones who weren't handing things in on time, the ones who were tuning out. And I tuned in. But only when it was something I cared about. So science class, there's this photo that pops up on Facebook periodically, Facebook memories, of the cover of my science exam from my final year of high school. And it was Taylor Swift lyrics. It was mathematical calculations for the boy I was interested in at the time. And our compatibility based on our names. I don't know if you ever did that, where you cross out names and you work out a percentage for your compatibility. It was loads of fun.
No, I'm slightly worried about you, but please keep going.
You should be, probably. And yeah, so I finished my exam like 2 hours early, and that was what I wrote on the cover. I did not do well in that exam, in case we're interested. But I always did really well in subjects that I was fascinated by. And when it came to university, I sought those out. I studied psychology, I studied English, but the hyperactivity was never really a thing. And I didn't realize how much of my life I'd actually outsourced to all these coping mechanisms that I'd put in place. So turns out, not everybody has 1,000,001 lists, like a day list, a week list, a month list, a year list. That's not normal. I thought everybody did that. Turns out not the case. I thought, everybody brings people into conversations 70% of the way through, because I've had the rest of it in my head, and I bring you in at the 30% to go mark. Turns out not everybody does that either. So it was all these things that I just sort of assumed everyone did, and then came to realize over time, no, they don't.
How did getting diagnosed at 32 change the way you saw your past, like school, relationships, work? Were there moments in your life that now kind of make a lot more sense now, other than the calculation of boyfriend's name on the notebook cover?
Yes. And I'm reading a book right now by Meredith Carter called It All Makes Sense Now. And it's basically making sense of your ADHD diagnosis. And I mean, the first thing I said is I turned to my husband and I was like, if I had had this diagnosis when I was the median age for diagnosis is 7 years old, apparently. Wow. And if I had gotten it at that age, I'm I would be I'd be like a professor at MIT right now. I mean, like, I have nothing to back up this statement, but it's one of those things where it's like, oh my God, if I could have just focused in like subjects I hated, if I could have like not felt so damn weird every time I overshared or was like too much in a social situation, if I could like, I mean, the amount of times since my diagnosis, which is now like, I don't know, all of like 1 month old at this point, I am like, something will happen, like what almost happened there, where I'm like about to lose my train of thought. If you heard me trailing off and going, no, come back, I can now go, well, it's ADHD. And I can just sort of brush it off and dismiss it. But it's one of like, there's a bit of sadness, I think, looking back at all the things I didn't know about myself. But, you know, if they say like the best time to plant a tree was like 50 years ago, the next best time's now, well, at least I've got the knowledge now, right?
Yeah. Going back to some of the misconceptions, you mentioned that your productivity or hyperproductivity was a form of camouflage.
Yeah, so it's I basically started tuning into the fact that I would procrastinate if I didn't put measures in place. So I kind of outsourced my executive functioning, would be like the technical terminology, I suppose, for it, where I would, like, I've been with my husband since I was, I mean, I didn't get married at 20, but we've been dating since I was 20. And I would like put in, I'd say to him, this is the task I have to do. This is the date I have to do it by. You've got to make sure, please, that I've done this and this and this by this point. And he was amazing with it. He continues to be amazing with it. So in terms of like taking my productivity and putting it onto somebody else, if he didn't do that, I don't know if I would be functioning in my career right now. I'm not convinced I would have graduated as academically soundly as I did. There's just, there are a lot of things that he takes care of. I mean, even my phone, if I've got like a lot of deadlines, a lot of articles I need to hit, a bunch of interviews, that kind of thing, I literally go to him like I'm a high schooler having my phone confiscated, and I hand it over and I go, do not let me have this back until I can prove to you this article's done.
You mentioned some regret about getting this diagnosis late in life, but it sounds like the way that you structured all your accountability to your husband, hyperproductivity, it kind of shaped who you were. You might want to reframe this idea that like you would have liked to have gotten diagnosed sooner. Not being diagnosed got you to where you are today. I just think it's really good that you got that diagnosis today. So that thing you said about the tree really rings true for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the, I mean, I think the regret is like, you know, I could be the mastermind of the entire universe at this point, theoretically, if I'd had access to Ritalin sooner in life. But it is one of those things where I don't regret it. I don't regret the way it's played out at all, because pursuing my interests, having these coping mechanisms I've put into place, I'm really thriving in the space I am now. I love what I'm doing. I love my writing. I love traveling. And if ADHD got me here, then so be it.
The article's called I'm Highly Organized and Productive, and so my ADHD diagnosis at 32 surprised some people. I'm here with freelance writer and contributor at Business Insider, Tayla Blaire. Tayla, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much, David. Have a great day.
Up next, when we're really stressed out and our body is flooded with certain stress chemicals, those don't just make us sweat or snap, they may quietly shape who we trust and who we turn against. After the break, you'll learn how brain chemistry influences group loyalty, rivalry, and why tension can bring out the best and worst in you and me. Well, all of us.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality walking shoes, which might lead to another discovery.
40,000 steps, baby! Who's on top now, Karen?
You've taken the office step challenge a step too far. Don't worry, though. Sierra also has yoga gear. It might be a good place to find your zen. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
We work hard to strike the right amount of intelligence and ignorance. The last show with David Cooper.
Why does stress sometimes bring people closer and other times drive them to lash out? A new study explores how stress chemicals in your brain shape behavior towards friends and strangers, which leads to things like tribalism, cooperation, and even the roots of intergroup conflict. I am here with Luca Lüpken, a comparative psychology researcher at Heinrich Heine University in Dusseldorf. Luca, welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thanks so much for having me.
So why would stress, of all things, make us nicer to the people we know? I'm just thinking of my father right now, and we don't observe this effect in him. He might be an outlier. But isn't stress sometimes something that is bringing out the worst in us?
Yeah, I think I would totally agree that sometimes it can bring out the worst in us. And I think also our study kind of shows that. But overall, stress is kind of a signal that there's something potentially threatening going on. And so we might want to look to the people who are really close to us to protect us and kind of build a shield around us. So it can also make us grow closer to the people that we love and that we seek protection from.
So tell me about the research. You handed people drugs to simulate stress hormones, stimulate adrenaline. What exactly did you test when you gave people these substances?
Yeah, so in our study, we were interested in how stress chemicals, as you said, affect our social behavior. For a very long time, researchers, kind of what you alluded to, thought that stress makes us either very aggressive and hostile, or it makes us generous and cooperative. And we thought it can do both. So we wanted to test that in a study. And what we did was that we used drugs that increase cortisol and noradrenaline. And these two chemicals are released in our brain when we're stressed. So the drugs can kind of help us simulate this stress response. And then what we did was that we had participants play a decision-making game. They teamed up with other participants and played against rivaling outgroups. So we gave them money and then had them decide how to distribute that money among different options. They could choose how much they wanted to keep for themselves, how much they wanted to contribute to their group funds, and how much they wanted to use to help their own group, but also to harm the outgroup by taking money away. So they could kind of pay to have money taken away from the rival outgroups. And what we saw in our results was that people under the influence of cortisol, they became more cooperative with their own group. So they used more money to spend on their own group. But people under the influence of noradrenaline, they became more hostile toward the other groups. So they took more money to take money away from the others.
I feel like you did a really good job simulating how society treats each other, by the way.
Yes, for sure. I agree. Yeah, so I think what our study really shows is that stress can do both. It can make us nicer, and it can also kind of make us meaner, but in a very, very specific way. So we become nicer to our friends, but we become a little bit meaner to people who are not part of our group.
Were you surprised that these two chemicals had such opposite effects or such different effects?
A little bit, I would say. So this was already an idea we had when we went into the study. So an idea that grew from research, because we were so confused that there was so much research showing that we become generous and cooperative, but also so much research showing that we become hostile. So we thought this kind of has to go together. It can't be either or, but rather both at the same time. So we were a little bit surprised, but then it kind of also just confirmed the hypothesis that we had early on.
Would you say that your study provides kind of like a neurobiological or a chemical explanation for the tribalism, the polarization, the political partisanship we see in society? Or is that going too far? Is that too broad an interpretation?
I would say to some degree. So I think for sure that our results can help understand these dynamics, and they can contribute to further building the whole picture, but they're just a puzzle piece. So we did a controlled lab experiment, which is much less complex than the real world. And there were also not that high of stakes. So we gave them money that they could take with them, but it's not like they gave their life or their status. So I think real world is more complex, but our results can be seen as a starting point to understand these dynamics better and to also understand how groups can become more polarized when they're under pressure.
Interesting. Now, take it on an individual level. Let's say I'm on an acrimonious or a very turbulent project at work, okay? And I'm not getting along with a little group I have to work with. Are there tips I can use to foster peace within a group that has a lot of stress or conflict?
Well, it's not something that we have researched so far, so this is just some speculation, but I think just knowing that these dynamics are at play and understanding that stress shapes our behavior can sometimes maybe help us take a step back, take a breath, and then think before we react. And maybe we can think a bit more about how we might react when we were under the influence of cortisol. So let's all be a little bit more cooperative.
Were participants in your study able to pay to hurt the outgroups? They were able to spend their money to do damage to an outgroup? Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yes. So the damage was always financial. So they could take money away from the outgroup. So they couldn't kind of really physically hurt them.
Sure.
But yeah, so they could hurt them in a financial way.
So if you just gave a group one chemical, would you just see the one behavior, or is it just sort of the proportion of the two?
No, it's actually if we give them this one chemical, because we also had a group that received both chemicals and they didn't show this behavior. So kind of the effects kill each other out, if you will.
Interesting. They cancel each other out.
Yeah.
So stress is sort of like a social amplifier here then. Does it boost bonding? It boosts conflict? It sort of heightens whatever's going on between the group that we have and our views of other groups, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. This is how we interpret our results. And it would be very interesting to see how that plays out in the real world.
So having a slightly less stressful world that we live in is likely to keep conflict down, but also less likely to make us bond with our peers.
Yes, but I also think that a lot more goes into bonding and conflict than just stress.
Sure.
But stress is definitely one aspect of that.
It's, oversimplified interpretation, but this is one factor in those two things. Well, thanks so much for sharing this research. Were there any other major takeaways or any other interesting things coming down the pipeline looking at these chemicals and their effect on us?
Yeah, so we have a lot of follow-up questions in our head already. One thing that we definitely want to look into is what does the brain actually do while we look at these effects? So which brain areas are involved in the effects and how are they working together? But another aspect is also, does it matter who the stress comes from? So are we still cooperative and loyal if our own group is stressing us out, or does that change the effects? So things like this are definitely something we want to look into.
Luca Lüpken works at the Heinrich Heine University in Dusseldorf as a comparative psychology researcher. Luca, thanks so much for being on the show. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Well, do you like what you hear, but you're just tuning in, or you're not going to be with us the rest of the evening or on a given night, and you want to catch what you missed? Fear not, The Last Show, available in its entirety as a podcast. If you head to www.lastshow.pizza, that's lastshow.pizza, not .com, there's no .com, in your web browser there, you can find out more details about our podcast, including how to subscribe, or just type David Cooper Last Show in your favorite podcast app. I'm sure it'll show up. Anyway, please subscribe. Give the podcast a listen. Though I can't tell you what to do. I'm not your mother. But I think your mother would agree with me. You should definitely subscribe. I'll stop talking about the podcast. Coming up next, maybe you think etiquette is just about keeping your elbows off the table. Think again. We will dive into the soft skills Gen Z may have missed and why they matter more than ever at work. After the break, an etiquette expert to talk about how Gen Z are faring in the workplace. And if you stick around, you might just pick up an etiquette tip that helps your career.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
In the 70s, 4 young women were found dead. For nearly 50 years, their cases went cold. I'm Nancy Hixt, a senior crime reporter for Global News. In the season finale of Crime Beat, I share how investigators uncovered shocking evidence of a serial killer and hear exclusive interviews with the killer's family. Listen to the full season of Crime Beat early and ad-free on Amazon Music by asking Alexa to play the podcast Crime Beat.
Your above-average intelligence brought you here. It deserves above-average absurdity. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
What if saying thank you could change the trajectory of your career? The younger generation, Gen Z, is smart, ambitious, but they might be missing a few soft skills. So let's discuss workplace etiquette, the post-COVID learning gap, and how to bring back the art of human connection that the younger generation might not have learned during COVID. We are here with Chief Etiquette Officer at etiquettejulie.com, Julie Blais Comeau. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David.
I find it so interesting that you make your career in etiquette. Are there any things about what you do that people don't know? Like, what's the basic premise of your job before we talk about Gen Z here?
Yeah, and that is truly what I'm doing, is teaching the soft skills. And you know what I call them? You know what I call etiquette, David? I call etiquette the competitive edge. The difference between you and any other host is how people feel in your company. And that competitive edge boils down to BLT. Now, I'm not talking about bacon, lettuce, tomato. And for me, I don't know about you, but bacon extra crispy and extra mayo. But BLT. Etiquette will make sure that you are B for believable. L, likable. We want to do business with people that we like. Sure. And lastly, probably more importantly, is T for trustworthy. So I teach the soft skills that will allow you, any one of our listeners, of our viewers, anyone to shine their unicity, what they have that's special. Because etiquette gets a bad rap. People think it's like noses, pinkies up in the air, and it's passé, dépassé, like all of that. But no, it allows you to shine. And lastly, what I teach, I always say, whether it's a conference, a workshop, an entire program, I usually start by saying, whether you do what I teach or not is irrelevant. Because when you know what to do, when and how, you can say, you know what, Julie told me that, but I'm not going to do it. But then you're conscious and you're not paralyzed about like, what do I do now?
Interesting. Or making those mistakes without even knowing it.
Exactly.
What is a tiny, everyday etiquette faux pas that drives you nuts and that Gen Z might be doing more than others?
You know, it's not returning calls, texts, emails. Does that happen to you?
No, I just have younger friends. I'm a big phone call person, and when you call someone in their 20s, they're like, why are you calling me? Is it an emergency? Just the very idea of picking up the phone is strange to the younger generation.
Absolutely. And I once gave a session, and ironically, it was about civility at work. And there was a Gen Z that was within the group. And, you know, David, these days, the Canadian workplace, and I would suspect the American as well, can have up to 5 generations in motion.
Wow.
5 generations. And then we're not even talking about all the different cultures. But that one employee had received a good old-fashioned desk phone. And within the session, with everybody else, civility at work, and people were talking about annoyances. He said, I got a phone and I've never even used it and I've never even checked my voice messages. And then I could see the other participants, some of them rolling their eyes. They couldn't believe it. So the biggest thing for me, my biggest pet peeve, is not returning calls, emails, or texts. There's not that acknowledgement.
Now, this younger generation finished university, got the entryway into their career, started their first jobs during the pandemic. When the whole world was in flux, everyone had moved to Zoom. People were showing up to work in their home. They were wearing a dress shirt but no pants. Like, it was a strange time. For me, I'd already had about 10 years in my career. And so, you know, I recognized it for what it was, but it didn't have a huge impact on my small etiquette things that I learned by going in the office. Should we give these people a break? Because they kind of had a rough start?
No, because all of us were in there as well. We were all. The phenomenon, the pandemic, by definition, was the entire planet, the entire world. And, the phenomenon that we're talking about today, about Gen Z, it's not the only contributing factor, the pandemic. If we go way past that, I'm going to talk about the explosion of the nuclear family, the explosion of the nuclear family, because all the guidelines, all the rules that we usually have within one family, all of a sudden at dad's place, at mom's place, at girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, all these things were in motion. And some of them could not be quote unquote respected or even obeyed. And the parents, I'm not putting blame here, but when you're going through divorce, what you want is that quality time with your child. And so you want that, and you're not going to remind them to say, please, thank you, because you don't want to be the nagging parent. So that's number one. That started to happen way before. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Let's talk about those pleases and thank yous, common courtesy in the workplace. What advice would you have to people just starting out their careers in terms of etiquette and politeness and thank you notes and just being conscientious and acknowledging the people that are there to help you or that you need favors from?
Mm-hmm. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. That's the basis. But it's the recognition of the other one. When I do incivility at work or civility at work, like harmony at work, whatever it's called, do you know when I give out a quiz, it's a self-reflection quiz that is in my book, Etiquette, Confidence, and Credibility. Do you know what pops up as one of the biggest annoyances, the biggest lack of respect?
No, please tell me.
Not acknowledging the other. David, you're walking down the hall and you're like, hey, that little hand or hello, how are you?
Sure.
Like just two colleagues, two employees cross each other and they're not even acknowledging one another. It's not at the top of the list. It's not somebody that's taking credit for my work. No, it's that lack of acknowledgement. And very closely, very, very closely, we're in a meeting together and I'm like constantly looking at
your phone, yeah.
And you're like, okay, and I'd be like, oh, no, go on, David. Yeah, I get you. No, the acknowledgement of the other one, to be empathetic. I always say, whether you do business B2B, business to business, or B2C, business to consumer, all of us are always doing business H2H, human to human.
I want to rewind to what you said. I was struck by it so much. 5 generations in some office workplaces. There's got to be intergenerational culture clashes. So what's some etiquette advice you have towards that? To someone who's very young, whose boss is very old? Or there's been cases where I've actually managed people in my former career who were 15 years older than me. What's some advice for dealing with intergenerational etiquette in the office?
Yes. And, one of the best tips that I can give is to have a team building activity and to find out each other's communication styles beyond the generations, beyond the cultures. I'm certified in Nova Global, which is a derivative of DISC and the 4 colors or whatever it is that it's called. But it's important to have that acknowledgement, as we are stating right now, that there could be up to 5 generations. So the generations all have different expectations. So if we have a team building activity where we find out about our communication styles, we also make decisions together. What are some do's and don'ts? Whether they use a facilitator like me, or they do it themselves, it's important to have those codes. Emails should be responded within how long? Is it same day? Is it 48 hours? Let's decide together on our standards. Let's acknowledge what's important to each other, and let's take it from there. That's my biggest recommendation.
That reminds me, I have a few work emails to sell at the commercial break. Julie, thanks for joining me on the show. I enjoyed the chat.
Take care, David.
Julie Blais Comeau is a Chief Etiquette Officer at etiquettejulie.com. Coming up next, a viral video has been passed around the internet, making the claim that one could go after a sperm donor for child support. Is there any truth to it? If you've been a sperm donor or you were born with a sperm donor-like situation, I'm not even sure what the right word for that is, should you be worried? We'll pick this salacious topic apart and give you real answers from a legal expert in a minute.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Broadcasting from the intersection of chaos and more chaos. The last show with David Cooper.
All right, there's a viral video going around on the internet that I'm going to play for you in just a second. It makes the claim that a sperm donor could be on the hook for child support. While it certainly generated a lot of likes, is this even possible? Surely this can't be the case. We'll analyze it with a legal expert coming up, but here's the clip. You be the judge.
I successfully sued my sperm donor, and now I get 40% of his paycheck.
I'm a sperm donor, and yes, I've been court-ordered to pay roughly 40% of my paycheck to this random woman and her child. The thing is, when I was 18, 19 years old, I was in the Marines, short on cash, and I thought it would be a good idea to donate some sperm for some easy money. I made a total of $150, and it came back to bite me because now I'm paying this woman thousands of dollars a month for a child I had no part in making or wanting. I did sign an agreement at the time stating that I would not be held liable for anything that happens to the sperm after I donated it. But I guess some laws changed and she found a legal loophole that states that I now am responsible for the child. So now I have to pay her monthly. It doesn't make any sense. I'm working on appealing it. So if anybody has any ideas or knows anybody who knows a good lawyer, send them my way because this is just unfair.
So, the question, if you are a sperm donor or someone who is the child of a sperm donation situation, what is your recourse? Can you try to go after the donor for money? This seems wild. I am joined by divorce attorney John Nachlinger. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
How common is, or dare I say how true is, since it's like a viral video I'm playing and who knows with social media, how common is a situation like this?
Well, good news for all those guys out there that when they were in college, they needed some extra dollars and they went into one of those little facilities and did a little into a cup. You don't need to worry. This is totally a false video. It didn't happen. I think it's been going around the internet for years, some version of it, but it's totally crap. I mean, in fact, the 40%, getting 40% of someone's income for child support, that by itself would be totally false by itself, not to mention the fact that you cannot get any money from a sperm donor if it's done the right way. And that's the key.
So I have a friend, he's actually one of the contributors to this show, but I won't name him, who has friends who are a lesbian couple, and they used his sperm to have 3 children. Is a situation like that where you're doing a friend a favor, maybe you have a contract, maybe you don't, I don't know a specific situation. Is that a situation sort of adjacent to something silly like this video where there could be legal liability? There could be a room for child support or something like this?
So what's interesting, there have been examples where people have done, and we used to joke around the turkey baster method where someone would just like privately, provide some sperm and people would put it in themselves. In those situations, yeah, you could be on the hook for child support. Or another thing people don't realize is it could be not the mom coming after you, but it could be the state coming after you. Because if mom goes on like welfare or something, the state can come after you for support because they want their money. So there are situations where you can get into some trouble. But the key here is if you go to a sperm donation facility, or in this situation, you donate your sperm and you do an agreement that says that you're waiving your rights to provide the sperm. And the important part is the sperm is put in the mother by a doctor. So if you do both things, if you sign away your rights, which almost everyone does if they go to a facility, and mom has the sperm put in her by a doctor, there is no way that the sperm donor can ever be on the hook. But if you miss one of those 2 steps, who knows? You could get a crazy judge out there.
So an informal agreement between friends where they say, well, of course, we're never going to come after you. Just come over, go into our little office room there. We've got high-speed internet with a great monitor with 4K video. Do what you got to do. We'll take what you got to do and we'll use it privately in our bedroom. Turkey baster method, I guess. If you do something like that, you're opening yourself up to potential legal liability depending on where you live. So what I'm hearing is go to a clinic even if you're donating to friends.
Absolutely. And make sure a doctor's the one doing the insertion. I mean, think about it, David, if this was true, no one would ever donate sperm, like ever. I mean, sperm banks would go out of business. People wouldn't have access to that sperm. I mean, it just on its face is kind of absurd that the legal system would ever let this happen. But in that situation, if you've already got two parents, I mean, you've got this lesbian couple, that's really all that you need anyway. I mean, there are situations where there can be three legal parents, but that's kind of unusual and very unique. So in that situation, you wouldn't be worried either because of mom coming after you or the state coming after you. Because that's the other thing. I mean, there's been examples of the state coming after sperm donors, but it's because they didn't follow all the rules. And, you know, the government wants their money back. They're getting welfare. They want their money back.
I feel like this conversation has turned into don't believe legal advice or don't believe claims in viral videos. I feel like it's turning more into that. Are there other misconceptions about divorces or about things like this that you see peddled around on the internet? I was just guilty of it. We brought you on the show under false pretenses because it's clearly not true. Are there other misconceptions that people don't realize?
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, Google has been the bane of my existence since I've been an attorney more than 20 years because people read all kinds of nonsense. The one thing that is constantly being brought up that I hear people say all the time is, if I leave my house, I'm waiving my right to the house, or I'm abandoning the house. Like things like that. Like people seem to still think that if they move out of their house, that all of a sudden they're like waiving the right to any financial interest in the house. And that is total nonsense. Like that doesn't exist. People do that. People say that all the time. Same thing with their kids. They think if they move out of the house, you know, because if you're in a bad marriage and you and your spouse are fighting every day, you might want to get the hell out of there. And if you do, you're not waiving your right to the house or to the kids. And I hear that literally almost once or twice a week.
Would it be safe to say that depends on the jurisdiction? Like I know you live in New Jersey, the show airs in Canada. I would obviously talk to a lawyer before moving out, but generally speaking, you're saying it's true.
Yeah, I mean, so in general now, and same thing is true in Canada, but everyone's part of a no-fault environment now, meaning it doesn't really matter why you're getting divorced. So once no fault started becoming the law of the land, throughout every state of the United States, Canada, and most countries of the world, by the way. I mean, even a lot of Arab countries like UAE have no-fault divorce. So it's pretty common everywhere. Once we started doing no-fault divorce, it really didn't matter what the circumstances were leading to the divorce. And because of that, it really doesn't matter if someone moves out of a house. But you should always consult with an attorney. I mean, another misconception, and this is kind of related to all of this, is recording. So a lot of people, when they're going through a divorce, they want to be able to protect themselves. They want to record their spouse. They want to like set up, cameras. They want to like put trackers on cars. They want to like, use their iPhone or, to like record conversations. That's where you really need to be careful because every jurisdiction has different rules on that. There's a lot of states where it's called one-party consent, meaning if you're the one recording and you consent to the recording, you can record whoever you want to. But there's a lot of states where that's not the case, and people get into a lot of trouble recording because, again, they go off on the internet and they think they know what they're doing, but you got to talk to an attorney before you do that.
Sure. Well, back on the original topic, I guess the general takeaway is you don't have to worry about people coming after you for child support if you're a sperm donor. If you're a couple that is interested in potentially using a sperm donor, this is all nonsense. But generally speaking, do it at a clinic, do it with a doctor. Don't just like have a handshake agreement. You want to protect yourself down the road.
Yeah, make sure a doctor's involved. I mean, that's really the key. Make sure a doctor's involved and make sure that if you're donating sperm, you sign an agreement that's where you're waiving your rights and your name will always be kept confidential. I mean, that's a whole nother thing where sperm clinics give away names and they get sued.
Fair enough. Well, John Nachlinger is a divorce attorney. Go to gethappydivorce.com to find out more about him. John, I appreciate you coming on the show and chatting and dispelling this ridiculous video, but it was fun to do.
No problem.
That's a wrap on Thursday night. That's the show. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, you can call us anytime. Tell me what's on your mind. The number 1-888-505-6644. That's 1-888-505-6644. Leave a voicemail. Tell me how your cat's doing. Pitch an idea for the show. Or tell me that you regret not calling your grandmother more. Whatever it is, we'd like to hear from you. 1-888-505-6644. I'm David Cooper. This was The Last Show. We'll be back tomorrow.
I'm Jordan Bonaparte, and this is your invitation to join me for an exploration of Canadian crime, mysteries, and the just plain weird on the Nighttime Podcast. Over the years, we've dove deep into many of Canada's most unique cases. From the haunting disappearance of Jack and Lily Sullivan in Nova Scotia.
That's something I have to live with until truth makes its way out, and the truth always makes its way out.
To the bizarre mystery of the unexplained death at a Halifax Walmart.
Walmart says a large bakery oven will be removed.
And of course, we provide a weekly roundup of Canada's weird news stories.
The psychic said he could make the woman fall madly in love with him.
The girl loves you more. It's like that.
If you give $12,000.
Yeah.
Through interviews with those closest to the case, to deep dive investigations and listener voices, we shine a light where few others take the time to look. So if you're interested in Canadian crime, mysteries, and the weird, get caught up on everything you missed by subscribing to Nighttime right now, wherever you get podcasts.